Did Julie came in, right? I saw Julie come in.
Hopefully you can hear her, I don't know.
Yeah.
Oh, it's Michelle. I think it's Julie.
Yeah.
You see Susie's text?
Where's it from?
That is the worst. And I'm like, how do you want to talk?
Where's Dana?
Train. November 18th. I do think this year, yes. I will look at what they did. Yeah. Okay, you're high.
I'm sorry. I'm good.
Oh, Dana.
You're good. So maybe
Yeah.
Sure.
Sorry, I called you before. Sorry, I called you afterward.
Got it. I don't know, they're all, no, right, they,
I've heard about it.
yeah, it's going well, Metcalf. Driving and trying to stop. What are you? Yeah.
It's like water is like better than.
The funniest thing was, so it was just me and pull it out. Till it read it.
Did it work?
Yeah. Yes. I go, yep, I did.
Yep.
And I'm really hoping that this one you just.
But then.
Rubbed it all, but then I was like.
And then you're like.
I didn't know their names actually, but. I've seen.
They're great.
We got it. I think we got it.
We're waiting for her health to come. Yeah, we're waiting for Michelle, so.
Hopefully we know those are for this.
Yeah.
Well, Michelle knows.
Well,
Your daughter. Get it out. Check out your toilet phone.
toilet phone. Yeah, we'll lead with that. My day started out with you, but how's everyone else's day? Yeah.
Oh, and oh. Yeah, okay, I told you, Well, that's why we were also. That's why it's moving so well too.
Yeah, it actually curls so much. Yes, I like these. So.
Well, everyone can follow that one, Leon.
Yeah.
And then these are,
Same thing.
okay. So it's like a packet.
Right.
Hey, what? The Vegas odds? Well, we're giving you some paper right now that you can write on.
Yeah, yeah. It's so bad. Yeah. Like. I know that. I actually.
Here, I'm gonna take them.
Yeah, but I was like, no. Yeah, no, you don't.
Here's more. Okay. Yeah.
So we're gonna cut it off then. We want to. No.
That's not even kind
I'm the only one who wants to. comment.
Yeah, I said that it's on the thing, and she's like, oh, okay, I can.
Okay, yeah. And Dana, you can pull it up and copy it, take notes on it. Just make a copy of it and put it in your case file. And then you can make notes.
Setting it over here for now.
I'm gonna be so much.
Yeah, 3 days. Yeah. Yeah.
I was gonna be on my deathbed after a meeting.
You should be.
Okay, you guys, I think we'll probably get ready and get started. You guys ready? It's under lunch and learns. It's
Professional development, lunch and learns. Oh, it's called motor overview. And I think there will be a certificate too.
yeah. Okay, you guys, we're gonna go ahead and get started.
No, there's an ITSJC/professional development dash.
So anyone who wants to follow along or make copies, the PowerPoint is under professional development, lunch and learns, and it's near the bottom. Don't mess up our copy, so make sure you copy and paste it into your PowerPoint. Everyone should have a copy of the help strands. The reason that we did this, and we were hoping to kind of use them as a tool for today, but they just arrived. Thank you for bringing them. We just got them yesterday. When I was a first with infant toddler, this is what I really use to help kind of figure out development. I think it's been a really, really good tool for me. I came in knowing occupational therapy development, but not so much all the other areas. And to be honest, to be able to get some of that fine motor and that gross motor down too. So I think these are really good tools. So we wanted everyone to have them. These are not to be used for evaluations. And when I say that, that means that you're not putting people's names on it. You're not using it because if you say on our IFSP that you use this, they have to have a copy of this in the file. And my understanding is the reason that we don't use this evaluation is because of how much each copy costs. And we want to be all on the computer. We want to be paperless. So please use these for your own reference, but not as an evaluation official tool. Monica wanted me to make sure I said that. Any questions about this? Okay,
And then I was just gonna talk about kind of how we like, develop this, lunch and learn. So we're gonna go through just typical development, kind of like, every age, about like every 3 months or so. And we just combined like the APS help and CDC, and we kind of just meshed those all together and gave like the high points. It's not every single detail, like in the help, there's like reflex stuff, all that kind of stuff. You don't expect you guys to be doing that, no one looks at that, but, so we just kind of combined all, that's where all of this information is coming from. And then, we're gonna just do some case studies, basically like, this is the kid you're seeing at the evaluation, and then you can do it individually, or you can kind of do it as a little cluster, like, would you qualify this kid or not? And we can kind of talk about that. Because there probably will some people would, some people wouldn't, and we'll just have an open conversation about that. Anything else?
that's about it.
Okay.
Any questions going forward? Please stop us as we're going along. We've got a couple little videos. We've got some pictures to kind of demonstrate what we're talking about. Honestly, the videos are more just for fun than anything, so, okay. This kind of goes through what we're talking about, the typical development case study, and then we'll have time for questions. Okay, I'm gonna do.
Okay, so we started with 2 months. So what we start to see is folding head up on tummy, moving both arms and legs, and then looking at turning head both directions. So that's going to be like torticollis, plagiocephaly, going into all of that. And just any asymmetries that you're seeing in the body are typically in the first year, just never typical. Opens hands briefly. A lot of times they're still going to have fisted hands. Rolls side to back. And then just kind of looking at the quality of how feeding is going. That's obviously super subjective, but just asking questions about how that's going, and just the quality of what that's looking like. And it kind of goes back to weight gain as well. And then maybe briefly looking at a toy or a person walking across the room or something like that.
The video that we have here, it was to address torticollis. How many people do not feel comfortable with torticollis? Like understanding what it is? I mean, do you guys want an explanation of what torticollis is?
Yeah, all of us.
So torticollis is,
So torticollis is tightness in the muscle, sternocleidomastoid muscle. There's a right side and the left side. Whichever side it's on, it's gonna, your head's gonna tilt to the same side and turn to the opposite side. And that's why it gets super confusing. But if you're seeing a tilt or just a preference or a super strong preference in multiple positions and starting to see some flatness, that's pretty much what we're looking for. And then we can ask more questions about that.
so how many people think this child has a problem? Okay, but what's important is that you move the head, because to be real honest, she doesn't have torticollis, she doesn't have a tilt, but I pulled this video because it looks like if you just leave her sitting there or laying there, that it looks like she has a real significant tilt, and she doesn't. And she's really cute.
Yeah, some of these are just for fun.
Yeah, so remember, some of them are for fun. Any questions on 2-month development? Does everyone understand the difference between prone and supine? Yeah, okay. Stop it. So technical things are, okay, there we go. So at 4 months, we're looking at a child is going to hold their head steady up without support. So if you look in this picture right here, that they're able to hold it up and they're turning it both ways consistently, that they're not stuck and turned to one side. Again, that goes back to that torticollis. If you hand them a toy that in their hand that they can hold it and hang on to it, and that they're starting to swing their arms to hit toys, but they're not swinging out to grab them. It also looks at bringing hands to mouth so that they're bringing both hands. Chloe had mentioned asymmetry. So when a child has got asymmetry, they're doing something different with each side, meaning that maybe only the right hand's coming to their mouth. When we see that, then we start looking at why is the left hand not engaged. And pushing up on forearm on their tummy, and that they have steady weight gain, and that the quality of their bottle or nursing is good, because at 4 months, they should still be doing a formula-based diet. They should not necessarily have had any introduction of solids or purees at this point. So we want to make sure that that's still going well, that we don't have any concerns with weight gain. You can see in the picture on the right, that's the little girl that had the torticollis. So she looked pretty good there.
Okay, 6 months, so we're gonna expect them to roll from tummy to back. Starting to push up on straight arms versus propped on their forearms. And which kind of goes along with pivoting on their tummy, so that just means shifting side to side on their tummy. Some kids will go in a full circle. Prop sitting for brief periods of time, which means sitting but with their hands planted on the floor for support. Grabbing and releasing toys. And when you start to pick them up and stand them up, they're gonna bear a little bit of weight on their feet. Probably not for very long, and if it feels
She fell
really,
over when you said
it feels
that.
really strong and they do it for a really long time, that's probably more concerning. If it feels more like tone. What else? That. I didn't even see what was happening in the video.
We could do the video, it was short.
Or is it her sitting herself up?
Yeah, she's
Which
starting
is
to sit up.
technically not, but, you know.
Well, she's starting to prop sit.
Oh, props, okay.
Prop
gotcha.
sit. No, she needed help. So that's what we would expect at a 6-month level,
Yeah.
that they're not sitting well, but maybe they can hold it for a second or two.
Yeah,
just
and
like what
sitting,
she
and
did.
sitting when placed there, not on their own, not getting into sitting, yeah. Any questions about that?
Oops, sorry. Okay, at 9 months, we're looking at a child who can sit independently. So it doesn't mean that they have to get in or no, they're getting in and out of sitting on their own. So that means that the parent's not just placing them and they're sitting. You can see in this video, this little girl is sitting. The same little girl with the torticollis that.
And her hands are up and she's using her hands not for support, but just to play.
Mhm. So when we look at the feeding aspect, we're looking that they're gonna use their fingers to start raking food. And that they're accepting food from a spoon and they'll be able to move things from one hand to the other. Within an evaluation, I don't always see a child take something and then bring it to the other hand, but the fact that she's bringing hands to midline kind of infer that she has got that skill to be able to move things back and forth. So just because when you guys go ahead and open up your help stream too at some of the motor things, and you can kind of follow along at some of the things that we're talking about. It doesn't have to be exact. So when we say, move hands from one hand to the other, what can we infer from what we're seeing them doing? Clearly, if a child isn't using one side of their body, they're not going to be able to move a toy from one side to the other. They may have trouble with raking, those kind of things. I looked at the feeding, because it's saying that she's going to accept food from a spoon. So she accepts it. She's not really happy about it, but at least she's accepting food from a spoon. So that might be something if I saw that happening, or the parent reported like, I put it in her mouth and she spits it out. I might be asking some questions to get a little more information about that. Any questions? Okay.
Okay, 12 months, starting to pull to stand and stand holding on, and then also sitting themselves back down. You'll often hear parents say they'll stand up, but then they just fuss and they get stuck there. So we're looking for them to also sit back down, and that can be a plop on their butt. It doesn't have to be amazing, but, and then cruising along furniture, drinking from a cup when held, using a pincer grasp to pick up small pieces of food, crawling on hands and knees, and starting to eat some soft table foods a year.
This little girl's crawling. You probably should know her name. Her name's Adeline, because she's in all the videos. Her mom likes to share videos with me and FaceTime me and voice message me Sunday at 9, Sunday at 10 p.m. And this is a video of her pulling up. This was actually the first time she pulled up. So mom was pretty excited to share it. So we'll also look at the quality of what that crawling looks like. So crawling on hands and knees, crawling and like commando crawl or army crawling, we're gonna look at that. We're gonna look at how they pull up. How are their feet placed when they're pulling up? Those will be some of the things that we'll look at. When we go through the case studies, I'm gonna talk to you guys about how we're gonna use these to help you determine whether someone qualifies or not too. Is it my turn?
Sure.
Okay, so at 15 months, a child is beginning to take a few independent steps. They stand alone well, meaning that they're going to rise from the center of the floor. So it is not Adeline. This is Jack, he's Down syndrome. And this is one of the first times he stood and took steps. Super cute. A 15-month-old is going to use their fingers to feed themselves, and they're not only going to take toys out of a container, they're going to be able to put them in, and that they're going to use a pointer to be able to activate buttons on their toys, or at least being able to activate those buttons. Let's just look at Jack again. So that's standing alone well, rising to rising to stand in the middle of the floor and taking a few steps.
And I'll just add, a lot of times parents will talk about their kids start to like bear crawl or get in kind of like that downward dog position. That typically means that they're trying to figure out this.
How old is Jack in that video?
Maybe like 12 months.
I was gonna say,
He's only like 18 months right now, and he's walking all over, and he's doing really, really well. He's a rock star.
Okay, so yeah, so by 18 months, we want the kid to be walking independently, and the pediatrician is gonna say the same thing. And that means like they're using walking as their primary mobility typically. Drinks from a cup independently, trying to use a spoon to feed themselves, climbing on and off furniture or a chair, so getting up and down, and then ascending and descending stairs independently, most likely still crawling or using their hands in some way. But doing that independently in some fashion.
So I picked this video because she is trying to use a spoon, but she reverts to her fingers. So using a spoon or tries to use a spoon, it's key. The key word is tries to use a spoon, not that they're successful or they're not making a mess. So that's Grace. Hey, at 24 months, we're looking for a child to be able to kick a ball, to run, and walk up a few stairs and eat with a spoon. And I included this picture because clearly if you walk into the house and this is what you see, this child is not going to qualify for any motor, at least for gross motor. So we would say he's ascending the steps pretty well and he's holding on. He's got a good grasp. So it is kind of a joke, but I mean, how many times do we walk in and see stuff like this? So don't have to worry about motor.
We spaced out the months a little bit as we got older, mostly because typically if you're evaluating the kiddo and they're this old, they're not only qualifying for motor, there's usually more going on. So we just spaced them out a little bit more, but. So 30 months, walks down the stairs independently, and they should be walking up, but up should come first. Typically comes first. Walking on tiptoes a few steps, jumps off a bottom step or a small something. Twist things like a doorknob, so starting that like wrist rotation. Taking off some clothes and turning pages of a book independently.
Just do one page.
What?
2, 3.
Okay, and then 3, which obviously we wouldn't be seeing them anymore, but putting on some clothes, stringing items like beads on a little yarn, using a fork, pedaling alternately on like a little tricycle or something, walking upstairs, starting to alternate feet, so like 1 foot on a stair at a time versus like 1, 1, 1, 1. Hops on 1 foot, bounces on 1 foot for a little bit longer than to like just kick a ball or something. climbing and playing on play equipment pretty comfortably and like avoiding obstacles. So like just not falling very often and just maneuvering their environment pretty successfully. Any questions about?
That's
Any
typical
impact.
development, and that's coming from CDC and the help strands and our experience. Yeah. Okay, so go ahead and go to page 13 in the help strands. Who is not familiar with these? I mean, do I need to explain how to use these? Does everyone understand? There's ages and kind of, that says it's the age range of when that should occur. Okay. Well.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, and when we were making this, we were using that other like blue help that the like the ages go across the top and then it all goes down. So it's the same thing, just formatted differently. Yeah, that one. But just so you know.
Okay, so what we're gonna do now is we're gonna do case studies. So we'd like for each, we separated everyone up into tables. Is between your table, we'll go ahead and put the case study up. And you guys decide as your little group on whether that child will qualify or not. You're certainly able to ask us questions about it and we'll give you some more information. Hopefully.
These are all made up, by the way.
They're all made
Some
up.
of them are real kids, actually,
Yeah.
but the names are made up.
Okay, so we're gonna start with Millie. Millie is 9 months old and she's not rolling in either direction. She's sitting independently, but only when placed. And she's not moving in and out of sit on her own. She's not pushing up on her tummy yet, but she's banging toys together and she's feeding herself soft table foods. She's nursing and taking her bottles well. So talk in your little groups and we're gonna vote whether she qualifies.
Yeah.
Do we have a story? Because I thought.
No, like. I think I remember that.
Okay, good.
Yes.
It's a real story.
I'm like, this is.
Oh, yeah, it's a happy sitter. That's why I should have just put. I devoured the kid. Oh, no, he would like run.
Okay, guys. Are you guys ready?
We can maybe just use the thumbs.
Yeah, yeah. Okay,
Okay, thumbs,
so
yay or nay?
thumbs up if she qualifies, thumbs down if she doesn't.
That's where we would get that informed.
All
Good
thumbs
work.
up.
This is a real kid. She would literally grunt on her tummy and be like, ugh, ugh. Like so dramatic. But yes, so yes, I would qualify her.
Yeah.
Really, really only for gross motor. Everything else was great. Okay, and then Maddie, is 7 months. She will prop on forearms on her tummy, reaching for toys in front of her on her tummy, rolling tummy to back sometimes, sits independently when placed, feeding self table foods, not pivoting on her tummy, and she is reaching for toys out of reach and sitting.
What's yours? Yeah. Yeah, okay. She should have already been doing Right.
Thing that's interesting to me.
Okay.
Yeah.
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 So,
That's what I was like. It's that's why I like. And like, why are we missing? Why are we missing? We're being all.
okay, what do you guys think about this one? Yeah, it's kind of a tricky one.
So this one, Jesse and I evaluated, and it was a really hard decision on whether I was gonna qualify her. And when I started running the numbers, I ran it at 20% delay, not 25% delay. And I didn't qualify her on a 20% delay, and then I left and thought, oh, maybe she would have qualified. It was like within a week or days. So what would be the option if you didn't qualify, but you had concerns? Like you're still one. Yeah, so I actually have her on my calendar to follow up about 6 weeks after the evaluation to make sure that she is doing some of those transitions on her own, and gave mom some suggestions on how to get her to do those transitions.
Because
So they're
we're seeing some delays, but not as many factors.
Yeah, they're not always black and white,
Well,
even when you do it every day.
yeah, we talked at our table that seems to be some splinter skills, and that would be more concerning to me than anything. And so I would probably lean towards informed clinical opinion in that situation.
And that's why we wanted to do this, because
Yeah.
we feel like, yeah,
can be
it's
done
like
differently
everybody,
though,
yeah,
right?
right, yeah. And
Yeah.
that's kind of the whole thing is
Yeah.
like, everybody has their
Could
different
you
thing.
also extend the eval since she was super close to the?
Yeah,
next
and it
age
was
range?
right before we had that in
Yeah.
service on extending the eval, so I'd
Mhm.
already said no.
To realize all of that in that initial. but
Yeah, yeah.
Just what to do.
Yeah, so I am gonna call back, and the truth is, I think with the evaluation, we don't have to actually reevaluate her. We can just get some more information and move forward with
As long as it's
services.
within that like 3 months. I
Yeah,
think.
within it's like 3 months. Is that right, everyone? Judy
Yes.
might know. Oh, just that if I call her back on Monday and she has not made any progress in her motor skills, then I believe that we don't have to do another formal eval because it's less than 3 months.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But I think also what they can do, if you have the opportunity, with long distance, when she drops, they say to get in and out, I mean, like, you're looking at those, there's how much of these then.
Right, and or does she just need to be put on her tummy more? Is she just never on her tummy? And so, or just not practicing that?
If they want to, like, we give mom a home program to work on for a little bit.
100%.
Show her something, and then how is Maddie responding and mom's working on
Mhm.
it.
100%.
And that's what we did, and checking back on seeing if there was any progress.
Well, keep us updated.
I think I might have a kid on my caseload. I don't know. It's like, it keeps me up. Like, I think about it. How many of you guys remember who you evaluated like 2 weeks ago? Like, I can still picture this kid. I've got her name. I went to Jessie and I was like, Jessie, this is Maddie. Remember? She goes, who's Maddie? Clearly it sticks with me because
Not.
yeah, I overthink.
Something else I'll say, like with these like on the border kids, I'm also looking at like, are they using rotation? Are they using their front side and their back side muscles?
Did you guys all hear that?
No.
I was
Same.
saying, if a kid's kind of on the fence, I'll often take a look at just their movement and motor patterns. Like, are they predominantly using their backside muscles a lot? Are they beginning to rotate and reach across midline pretty frequently? And just looking at how many actions are they doing with their front side versus their back side. So if something looks kind of off, or you're like, they're always arching, it's like, okay, they might not have the movement patterns that we might expect from this age too.
Or if they're like super rounded, like their spine is super rounded, and they're always gonna say, look at these ones from the qualified, a kid to super rounded.
And I do think, you know, after we have that in service that says we can extend that evaluation, I think that gives us a lot of freedom. So, and not to point out certain disciplines, but if it's an ECSC and a speech therapist going, or a dietitian, that there's not a motor person on that team for that eval, that you can extend and say, hey, I really want to touch base with some of my motor people, and I'll get back to you. I think that's a really, really good option to be able to describe. But the things that we would be looking for are kind of what Luke is talking about and what Isabel talked about. It's
Quality.
not just, it's the quality. What does it look like? Is it very much, are they stiff, or is there some freedom of movement?
Like for that kid, when they're like already really doing well sitting, sounds like parents could like leave the room almost. But they're also reaching for things out of reach. That's showing me they're probably doing some rotation. They're
And
using
rolling a
those
little
front
bit.
side, and then they're able to come back upright. That kid probably is going to be fine in a couple months.
Yeah, and I think a lot of this was complicated. If I remember, she was a lot of reflux, and that reflux impacting the tummy time. And so she had a delay in that tummy time. So maybe now that she's eating table foods, she's on baby-led feeding, that the reflux seemed to be, even though she's vomiting a lot still, or spitting up a lot. So that may have played a factor in it too. Doesn't take away from a delay potentially in development. I mean, we don't say, oh, she had reflux, so that's why she's not doing X, Y, and Z. She had reflux, which may explain it, but if she's 25% delay, then we qualify.
So I also though caution, like, I don't want to get my caseload backed up with all these calls that I'm trying to catch kids that may or may not qualify.
This is the first time I've ever done this.
No, but I mean, so I would say lean into that online screening, give them the address or email them the link that the parent should be equipped to do the follow-up. Like, it shouldn't necessarily take a therapist to call back and say, how are things going for a kid who didn't qualify.
Typically, that's what I do, is that if we give a home program for a child who's not eligible, that, you know, try these things, we give them a date, say by, like for her, I said by Valentine's Day, give us a call. The only reason I'm calling her back, because I just feel a little uncomfortable with it. It is my gut telling me that something just was a little off, and maybe I should have qualified her. And that's why I'm calling her back. Otherwise, mom's instructed to call me on after Valentine's Day. So that's a really good way to put the responsibility on them. So I don't believe that it's always our responsibility to have to reach back out to the families.
How much time is that, like a per kid, or like how much time should we be hearing if it's a skill blood about what's going on?
And there,
I'll let Chloe answer, and then I'll have an answer, and then anyone else.
I asked her, she said, ask you. So, what was the question?
The question
How
is,
much
how
tummy
much
time?
tummy time do you want to hear that the child is doing? What would be good?
I would go back to more of like that quality of tummy time.
Okay.
Like if they look great on their tummy, but they're only doing it a few times a day, I don't really care. But
Okay.
if they look good doing it,
So see it.
yeah, I would
Yeah,
say
no
like
problem.
seeing the
Okay.
quality is more important. And a lot of times parents will say, oh gosh, they really hate being on their tummy. We don't do it that much.
Yeah.
I feel like you can typically kind of read the situation. Yeah. So I don't really have a number.
Well, and the other
But-
thing is,
But
tummy
people will
time.
ask you that.
Yeah, the other thing on the tummy time, when they're flipping off their tummy, I just can't keep them on their tummy. They can't do tummy time anymore. If they're flipping on their tummy,
Then
it
they're
means we're
strong.
past tummy time.
Yeah,
We don't
exactly.
need to force them unless,
Exactly.
in some cases, we
Yeah.
might have to, but that would be more therapeutic. So we don't need to force them to be on their tummy. So parents can let go of mandatory tummy time for 30 minutes,
Stay.
3 times a day. That is not a rule.
Yeah, no.
It's not audible, at least.
Yeah.
Right?
Does that
Yeah,
kind of
that's
answer your
perfect.
question?
Thank you.
Yeah. Yes.
So would you disagree, like some therapists, like the Connective therapist,
Uh-huh.
online, she always says like 4 months, they should be tolerating like 60 minutes throughout the day of tummy time. So you're saying it's okay as long as the quality
I mean, I think there's a lot of there's a lot of numbers thrown around. I think every pediatrician will say something different. And I love Emily. I think she's great. So I don't disagree. I think it's more just you know, I guess what I think of is if a parent is doing at 4 months, 60 minutes of tummy time, but this kid isn't doing it, like they're just laying on their tummy, then what are we even accomplishing? So I think it is like the quality of the tummy time, but yeah, I mean, as they get older, they should be accumulating more time, longer periods of time, but then they're gonna start to roll off their tummy and just do their own thing. And I feel like that doesn't answer your
No, it
question, but
actually-
okay.
And if we look at what 4-month-olds are doing, it's not just tummy time. If
Yeah.
the main focus is tummy time, we're forgetting that they should be on their backs and they should be batting at toys and we should be start working on sitting. We should have some good head control. If that kid can't maintain tummy time in play and enjoy that, then I have to question what head control is. So when I put them in sitting, if they're dropping their head, then that's telling me a lot about what is going on and what we need to work with them on. Any other questions? This is fun.
Clear as mud as Montford, so.
Okay.
She's not here.
Okay, Gabriel. Gabriel is 19 months old. He's 16 months adjusted. He's currently crawling on all fours and he pulls to stand. He's cruising along furniture. He lowers to sitting from standing. He's self-feeding finger foods and drinking from a sippy cup. He walks behind a push toy and he crawls up and down the stairs and he's walking independently. And he pushes a push toy. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
You know this all.
I know that's not nothing.
Yeah, that's what
Trying. Trying. That could be like. Yeah.
Let me erase mine.
Every now and then.
It's not fast enough.
Yes. I think that's. Oh, I know.
Okay, what do we think about this one?
I think they're automatically eligible, probably.
Okay, they are, but we're saying outside of medical. Yeah.
Throw somebody off. So what are we saying? Qualify? Who says qualify? Anyone?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. He is an auto qualifier, so he will be with us until he's 3. For other things.
Okay, and then we have Alexander, who is 19 months, not adjusted. He's crawling on all fours, pulling up and cruising, walking with the push toy. Has stood up once in the middle of the floor, picking up small pieces of food, not moving on stairs, and takes a couple independent steps.
Is he standing wrong?
What?
Letting go, standing on the.
I don't know.
No.
No.
Yeah, I would say
Yeah.
no.
He's not.
Oh, wait.
So it's something, these are all separated, like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, what do you guys think about this one? Yeah.
Qualify.
25% delay, right?
Yeah. Mostly because he's not really getting up from the floor or standing. He's taking, yeah, and stairs. He should be doing something on the stairs. this is probably one of those kids that we would take and be walking in the next month, but, yes,
This is
I would
one I
qualify
was
this
saying
kid.
I probably would have had a conversation with parents about their concern
Same.
level and ask if I could come back in like
Yeah.
2 or 3 weeks if the IFSP
Typically,
was
these
good.
happen pretty quick, but we get a lot of these, I feel like, right around this age of like, the pediatrician was like, they're not walking fully. But they're kind of doing all the things right before walking, yeah, so. like, we get a
So
lot
with
of
this kid, he
those.
has a visual issue, so he's auto qualifier. And he's still not walking.
I would
And he's
probably,
like 22 now. I mean, I don't say that to say like, yes, we should or shouldn't qualify, just to give background is all. But that would be a really iffy one.
I also like to ask questions about just like behavior, like are they enjoying walking with hands held? Things
Are they
like that.
fighting every second of
Yeah.
every time? they're
Cause
trying
that's
to
gonna
work on
tell me
walking?
timeline too.
And I think, okay, so I'm gonna go back to the
And
vision
language,
thing.
like this kid, like,
Yeah,
if they're not saying any words too, that's gonna matter.
yeah.
Yeah.
So like, if I go to see a child like this, and this is what they're doing, and they're 19 months old, I'm really kind of looking at the why. It's not black and white. Do they qualify? Do they meet the criteria? Or don't they? What could possibly be contributing to why they're not doing the things that they're supposed to? And for him, it happens to be a visual difference. And that's what's causing him to struggle with the walking. Any questions? Hi.
Do we have two Alexanders?
Yes, it's another Alexander. We like Alex's. Go ahead.
Okay, 13 months, rolling both ways, army crawling, sits when placed. Not weight bearing when stood up, not bringing food to his mouth, will accept food on a spoon and mom's fingers, and not pulling up.
It's,
yeah.
Okay.
Okay, what do we think? Like this one's pretty easy. Okay, good. Any questions about Alex? Okay, and then we have little Lucy, is 3 months, rolling side to back, only to the right. She's a right head tilt, spinning up often, not tolerating tummy time, not propping on forearms on her tummy, lays head to the left on tummy and back. I just was, I said that. I didn't want to step on it.
Yeah. So totally. Chris, it makes care of me. Yeah.
Okay, what do we think about this one? Why?
Why are we qualifying Lucy?
What do you think is going on?
And reflux.
Colic and reflux. So this is a delay, but also this is one of those just quality of like, how are things going? Not very well, probably, so. This is, and, with torticollis, plagiocephaly, the sooner we can get in there, the better. So these are the kids that we really don't wanna like delay eval or unless. I mean, there's probably some situations where you could, but, sooner the better that we can give some things. And with reflux, we're probably not gonna see resolution in torticollis until we get that under control too, and with tummy time. So it just really all kind of goes together. And we see this a lot, torticollis and right reflux. We don't really know if it's a true torticollis or not, but whether it is or not, there is tightness and uncomfortable, they're just uncomfortable. So we see this all the time.
Okay, the next one is George, and George is 6 months, and he wears a helmet. He's rolling both ways. He sits when placed. He brings his hands to his mouth. He's grabbing toys with both hands and bringing to his mouth. He's pushing up on his tummy and pivoting to toys out of reach. And he looks to his right and his left equally.
Hey, what do we think about little George? So we just wanted to include this one, basically to just say that just because a kid has a helmet does not mean that they need services. It matters what else is going on. I feel like that can just, you walk in, you see a helmet and you're like, oh, they probably need help, but not always. If the helmet is doing its job, and it's doing its job, and there's no tightness. So we just wanted to touch on that. I don't know if any other motor therapists have a differing opinion, but I just feel like it doesn't mean a kid necessarily needs help.
Plagiocephaly does not mean that they have torticollis. It does not mean that they have tightness. And so what we can address is tightness. We can't address plagiocephaly. So George is having it addressed by either Hanger or by Cranial Technologies. And as long as we're not seeing any tightness, there's not much that we could do to help.
Any questions about that? Liam is 24 months. He walks on his own quickly, walks up the stairs holding on the railing, uses a fork and spoon, stacks blocks. He's not jumping yet. He climbs on the couch. He falls more often in the grass in the backyard than his older brother, than inside. And he will push himself forward on the right arm toy.
Mine should be more. Fourth grade.
You're asking the answer.
Hands.
Okay.
But I would want to know.
Well, it's like on the grass. So we were.
So that's also.
And that's where we put this too.
When that's. Oh, yeah.
Okay, what do you guys think about this one? Yeah, I would say no. Probably a little bit of delays, but not 25%. Any questions about that or follow-up? Because he's walking quickly, he's falling a little bit more on an uneven surface than an even surface, but that's still okay, depending on. A question I would ask these parents is, when did he start walking independently? If he's been walking independently since he was 9 months old and he's now running at 2, I would ask some questions about that. But walking at 18 months, he's doing just fine. So again, just asking some follow-up questions. Anything else?
I think this would be in a situation too, like just thinking about like just the falling, but like I just went with Stephanie yesterday for a kiddo that falls when he's running and he's almost 30. And so just again, that quality piece, like are they constantly running into things when they're walking? So yeah.
Lisa is 10 months old. She sits when placed. She's pivoting and pushing up on her tummy. She rolls both ways. She's not transitioning in and out of sitting, and she's not pulling to stand. She rakes to feed herself, and she's banging toys together.
This is one. I'm like reading this one. Yeah. It's a good discussion.
Do you not know what you know?
I looked at it and I go, I don't remember. It's gonna be open conversation. Okay, what do you guys think about this one?
Yeah.
Okay, if you think that she should qualify, put your thumbs up. If you think she shouldn't, put them down.
Okay,
on this only information.
what more information do you feel like you need?
What are her legs doing?
Yes, and is she, I would say, is she moving at all independently?
She's
Army crawling.
moving. So crawling could be happening pretty soon after. And she's rolling.
Is there any other information?
7.5 months.
Yeah,
So, I mean, according to that, she probably does not have, if we're using like 9 months as our criteria for home stand and all that, so she doesn't quite have that delay, but yeah, when she crawl, or
she's not crawling, she's not army crawling or doing anything.
they're weight through her legs, if she wasn't doing that, or
Yeah, I think this is one of those that it really could go either way, and I think a lot of it is what questions you're asking parents, and do we feel like crawling, whether that's army crawling or crawling, is coming? Like, are we seeing signs of it? Are they trying to transition?
That's why I say like pivoting and kids figuring out how to move on their tummy, so crawling usually shortly after.
Yeah. It's
What other questions or comments on Lisa? So, and then if we look at what are her other areas of development, because then that could potentially drop her to a 20% delay in 2 areas, which then would she be more apt to qualify at a 20%? Kind of reminds me of Maddie. Oh no, he's haunting me.
It is.
Maddie's haunting
Maddie likes
me.
rent-free
I will never forget that child.
He lives rent-free.
You ever doubt I don't take work home?
Really?
Okay, so what would the consensus be? We need more information. Okay. Okay,
And I think the reality is some people would qualify her and some wouldn't. That's okay. Okay, Monica is 20 months. She walks on her own, but falls a lot. She's crawling up the stairs, but not down. She will sometimes use a pincer grasp, but sometimes still using a whole hand to feed herself, like raking. Turns spoons over to feed herself, uses whole hand to activate a toy, requires support to kick a ball, and prefers to be carried out in the community. That was good. So yes, yeah. I don't really have anything to add. I feel like that one's pretty obvious. Any questions about Monica?
too bad Monica's on here. Okay, so what questions do you guys have? Do you guys all feel more comfortable with motor development and the assessment and determination of eligibility? A little bit.
I think also like talking a little bit about daycares, want their kiddos to be one and walking.
Yeah. Yep, sure do.
When the daycare was from.
I say the normal range is up to 18 months.
That's the issue.
And that's,
good.
I mean, that's my response to that. I mean, for me, it's normal for kids to walk up until 18 months.
But I've got 3 other babies waiting on that list for that spot. That's what they, I mean, that's what
Yeah.
they're hearing. So
Yeah.
I'm not so your care, but that's
Yeah.
what daycare often refers for at that age.
Yeah, and then they're frustrated, the daycare's frustrated when we say no, they're still typical. And that they don't qualify for services. And so then the parent feels a lot of pressure to get them up and walking.
Yeah, I mean, and sometimes I'll say, you know, if they want to move this child up, there's ways that they can do that. They just have to do some extra work. They just don't want to do it. Another thing I say too is, you know, if a kid is approaching 18 months and not walking and they are at a child care center and they're still in a baby room, I'm like, what would motivate this kid to try and walk when everyone else in their room is not? So that is something I will say often, and I think that really hits home with parents. They're like, oh, that makes a lot of sense. And some parents aren't ready for their kids to move up until they're walking. They feel like they're gonna get hurt or trampled or whatever. But I always just kind of say that too, like, what is motivating this child to want to walk when everybody else in their room is crawling and all the toys are on the floor?
I think that's a good point, though, to think about the overall development of the child, like, they're not being stimulated like they should be. If their peers are 6 months or more behind them.
But yes, Judy, I totally hear you.
What other questions? All right, well, thank you guys. There will be a certificate. Stacy, you'll send that out or Violet?
It'll be in the folder.
It'll be in the folder. Okay, use your helps. I just want to reiterate, it is not an official evaluation tool. Do not